So do you have?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So let me manage it. All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing fine. This is Fatemeh Khonamri from the University of Mazandaran, Iran. I am presenting this title. It's actually a kind of analysis of our literature students' tendency toward choosing either reading classic literary works or watching the movie adaptations of it. Electronic materials. We all know that it is a really essential tool for learning exchange in the world. And it is a kind of network that connects people, ideas together somehow. And we all know that across nations, increasing attention is being paid to improving reading skills as the baseline for critical literacy, improving students' independent learning, and their ability to think critically and have some abilities in problem solving. So we know also that reading can be defined as the meaningful decoding and comprehension of print and online text. So therefore, it is a gateway to achieving this purpose because it is a cognitive skill. And when someone improves their reading skills, it is considered to be a prerequisite for their critical thinking development, or if they want to develop their critical literacy. So on the other hand, movies are considered also as a powerful means of entertainment, which can focus on real life stories or created ones. The features they have is that they combine visuals, movements, and music, and therefore are powerful in creating impact. And this, contrasting these two, that is reading books versus watching movies, seems to be a never-ending war. And there are a lot of movies and TV series based on books these days. And we see a great many blockbuster hits are made by film industries which continuously dig into books. And this industry has been so big and successful that a lot of people have parted their ways with book reading, it seems, these days. And I read from Stephen King once that he believed it is not right to compare books to movies, because doing so is like comparing oranges and apples. And as we know, each of them has their own benefits, and it is therefore important to create a complete balance between watching movies and reading books. So, what was the problem that we decided to investigate this topic? When it comes to educational issues, especially university education, educators expect to see more emphasis is placed on reading, especially for literature students. And because this is what is expected of these students, to read a lot of classic works, to dig into their, the messages that they have to convey. So it develops, it provides both entertainment and develops their power to visualize things without seeing them on a movie screen, teaches them the power and value of rhetoric and eloquence and the pleasure of elegant use of language. And it also stimulates the imagination in many ways and gives a view of other places, other times, people of different conditions than ourselves. So the purpose of this study was to find out what our literature students prefer at the University of Mazandaran, whether they prefer watching movies over reading books, If one of them is preferred over the other, what are the reasons behind their preference? What reasons they mention mostly for preferring one mode over the other? So these UMZ literature students prefer reading books over watching movie adaptations of those literary works. And the second one, which are each group's reasons for their preference? So the participants in our study were 141 literature students studying at the University of Mazandaran. Their age ranged between 18 to 21. And first of all, we used a well-structured questionnaire that comprised some questions covering some demographic information, knowledge, attitude, and perception towards movies and books. Then, the survey actually was circulated to these students via Google Forms online, and we obtained the results and then analyzed them statistically, focusing on the frequency and percentages of each of the answers. Then based on convenient sampling, 10 students, that is 5 from each category, the book readers and movie watchers, were invited for an in-depth interview. And the interview focused on asking students to explain their reasons for the preference of one mode over the other. All these interviews were recorded, transcribed, and coded to answer the research questions. So this is the analysis of the results. These were the items that were included in the questionnaire. The first one asked the students whether they preferred reading books over watching movies, to what extent they did so. As you can see, only 39% of the students, almost 40% of the students, preferred books over movies. The rest were more interested in watching movies. The second one asked whether books improve imagination skills more than movies. You can see the results. Books help experience the protagonist's feeling with greater intensity than movies. Reading books let us possess more emotional expression compared to watching movies. Books improve language and communication skills better than movies. Reading books improve our creativity more compared to watching movies. And watching movies can save a lot of time compared to reading books. I watch movies because I cannot read fast. I watch movies because I don't have enough time. And the last question was, I watch movies because they give a better picture of the plot, theme, and characters. So these are the results related to the analysis of the questionnaire. According to the questionnaire analysis, almost 40% of the participants read books, while 50.3 preferred watching movies. When asked whether books improve imagination skills more than movies, only 46% agreed. When asked whether books help experience the protagonist's feeling with greater intensity, 46.8% agreed to the statement, while 53.2% disagreed. When asked whether reading books let them possess more emotional expression compared to watching movies, only 30% agreed. When asked whether books improve language and communication skills better than movies, 31% agreed. When asked whether reading books improve their creativity more compared to watching movies, 46% agreed. And when asked whether watching movies can save a lot of time compared to reading books, it's interesting. 91% agreed with the statement that it saves a lot of their time. When asked whether they watch movies because they cannot read fast, only 28% said yes. And when asked if they watch movies because they don't have enough time, 51% believe that it is the main reason. And finally, when asked whether they watch movies because it gives a better picture of the plot, theme, and characters, only 29%, almost 30% said yes. The other phase of the into two parts: book readers' accounts and movie watchers. They think is that students don't read these days. Some believe it is due to their busy schedules at the university that they cannot read as much as they want. Others felt that it is due to lack of patience in the young generation and that they seek to look for shortcuts and quick ways of doing things. Interestingly, even movie watchers knew that books were much more profound, but still had their own reasons for not reading books. In what follows, the responses of what both groups are shared. Starting with the book readers' accounts, as you can see, one of the interesting things about this interview was that even though the majority of students preferred movies, but the reasons provided by book lovers were definitely more profound, both in quantity and quality. For one of the interviewees, reading books was important as a literature student because she saw books as the main source of input for modeling the second language she was trying to master. And she said that books contain excellent, focus on placed on words and well-written sentences. Another point she stated was the writer's element in the books, and she believed that if the writer element was removed, which is something happening with movies, then there is no meaning left to explore. Another student said, for me, the best part about reading a book is creating the world in my head. And according to them, the book was the author's, the good point about book was the author's words and reader's imagination. She also emphasized that she would never, replace books by the movie versions of it. For the third student, there were many reasons for why he preferred books over movies. She said, when you read, it's not just the book you're holding, it's a whole new world with all its characters and stories about them, ready to be unfolded by you, to be imagined and perceived in the very way you want, a world that takes you to an unexplored dimension, definitely with lots of new life experiences. It's as if you're living 1,000 lives in just one life of yours. Imagine all this while watching a movie. Quite impossible. So you see, watching movies is only for entertaining yourself. Reading novels is much more than that. Then he also added that I think the movies actually destroy the storyline and plot of the books, which I call the soul of the book. It misses huge chunks of the storyline, resulting in missing out important details. By the way, the story in the book is never compromised because of any problems in the acting, filming issues, etc. Because you imagine the whole scenario inside your head and it's never boring, it'll never disappoint you. You can actually see inside the head of the characters so as to what's going on, how they are feeling. And the fourth student in this group said that he will always prefer a book, but the only disadvantage he sees in a book is it takes time. But to him, the advantages outweigh this particular disadvantage, and according to him, reading a book is always better than watching a movie. He was also of the same opinion that reading books gives us the ability to get into the characters' heads. We get to know exactly what the characters go through, their intentions, motivations, how they perceive the world around them. He also emphasized the linguistic power by saying that books are able to create vast, highly detailed scenes to have the capacity to not let you put the book down. Most times, I'm so hooked to the story, I tell myself one more chapter, just one more. So this was the reason mentioned by one of the students in the book reading category. He also added, I would prefer to let my imagination hold my hands and walk me through the plot rather than listening to someone's adaptation of it. I'd like to give myself a chance to picture the characters, the events, the backdrop, trying to be in the protagonist's shoes and being in the closest proximity of the author's vision. The fifth student, that is the last student in this category, also had her own great reasons for preferring books to movies. For her, a movie was only a matter of 2 or 3 hours, while a book was an experience. Only a true book lover will be able to describe the euphoric feeling one gets as she holds the book in his hand. her hands, slowly going through the pages and devouring each and every paragraph, line, and word to the fullest. This is a feeling that you can never get while watching a movie. Without doubt, reading a book is better than watching a movie any day. She also had the same opinion as other students about books and imaginations. She said, in case of a movie, we just have to watch it and consume it as it is, but a book gives us the opportunity to imagine the situation. While reading the books, you imagine what is written in words and create objects, characters, words, and everything. It is your imagination that gives you happiness while reading a book. Everyone enjoys books in a different way and all have different imaginations. So the book is an interpretation of your imagination. And she also believed that books lose things when they are made into a movie. Most movie adaptations come nowhere near the quality of the source material. She said that movies don't give you time to think. You're just entertained by a single dimension of imagination of the director or some folks who are part of the movie making. She also enjoyed the experience of reading words rather than watching a story narrated through film. What she loved about books was the free rein it gave to her imagination. She said she could visualize scenery, setting, characters, emotions, etc. better when she is doing it herself. The following picture sums up all that was mentioned by all the students in this category. That a book allows the imagination of the reader to run free, not bound by anything, whereas a movie is equivalent to the director's imagination being thrust upon you. This is the simple reason why most book lovers are not able to appreciate the movies based on their favorite books. This is the picture. As you can see, when you're reading books, you are imagining, visualizing everything in your head while you're watching a movie. Your mind is blank and everything else is shown by the director. It's being thrust upon your mind. And to summarize this, reading is the only thing that allows you to use your imagination. This picture summarizes it. When you watch films, it's someone else's vision. When you watch a movie, your brain stops imagining and focuses on how the person acts. Reading allows us to imagine a situation, environment, characters, and their personality. Meanwhile, if you're reading the book, you're solely relying on your imaginary skills to imagine how the fight or scene goes inside your own mind. So reading a book calls upon the awakening of your dead mind while you are watching movies, your brain shuts down the part of imaginary thinking and just focus on the part on enjoying the movie. So studies also show that reading does improve a person's creativity due to imagination. When you read a book, nothing else exists and you can be a whole other person in this completely new and amazing world. 100 pages. Therefore, back to the point, reading books can strengthen our imaginary skills and our creativity, while on the other hand, movies leave viewers with just war which never ends. That's the war between watching a movie or reading a book. But this person, this particular student, preferred movie over books, and he said that at the end of the day, movies are always better than books because who has time to go through 200 pages of a book? I mean, people do not read anymore, and even if they do, trends in reading have changed. They prefer to read a summary or maybe watching a video on the topic, but no one would be crazy enough to read a 600-page book just to know what happened. He believed that time is money these days, and after such hectic schedules, people hardly get time to read. He also continued by saying you can only read a book alone, but when you watch a movie, the experience is different and amazing. You can plan out movie day with friends and family, order great food and watch. You can't find two people reading together a book. Even if there is, then there are book clubs for discussion. Otherwise, people prefer to read alone. It's also tough to read the same book again and again, whereas one can watch a movie again and again as many times as the person likes. There are some classic movies which I may have watched almost 4 times but never got bored of it. The second student goes, movies are more visually appealing. I mean, it takes less time, and also you can see it visually. I love them because they can cut out the unnecessary bits, like you can relax watching them. You don't need to strain your imagination creating the character. They are good because you can hear and see the stories come to life. Movies are better because it's quicker to watch than it is to read. With all the bits added to books, they get boring. The next student's opinion is about time. He said watching movies can save us a lot of time compared to reading books. Reading books could take a long time depending on the speed of reading. People often view the content of the book to be too much for them, and watching movies, which is one of the shorter versions of the books, and which then makes them prefer watching movies over reading books. One famous author, I don't remember the name, once said, so many books, so little time. Reading a book takes time for people who want to finish a story within 1 to 3 hours. Reading a book from cover to cover could take a lot of time. Of course, it depends on the book, the writing style, and the wording. Also, we often say, let's enjoy ourselves by watching movies, or let's enjoy ourselves by playing games, but you never hear someone say, let's enjoy ourselves by reading books. Yes, it was interesting. The third student continued to pinpoint her own reasons. She believed those who cannot read fast would prefer watching a movie because it's more convenient to do so. Furthermore, if one were to watch a drama, one would be addicted in watching the series eagerly. It would only take a few hours to watch one, and it renews every week. However, books can be quieted right, since books are published based on the author who writes the book. Those who are favoring a lengthier story and with patience enjoy a book may reread a book endlessly. If one cannot enjoy a book again and again, the time reading the time compared to reading books. And the fourth student said he is too lazy to read a book. We can watch 10 movies in the time it takes to read one book, or at least for me, that's the case. I am a slow reader. I'm watching skills. When watching a movie, one can watch on how people or character communicate between each other, and so we learn how to start and maintain a conversation with other people. So this is the discussion and the conclusion to this study. In the present study, our students were found to both read books as well as watch movies. However, the movie watchers were the number were more than the book readers. After analyzing all the responses, it can be said that they mostly preferred watching movies more than reading due to the time constraint they faced, and that they took less time to finish. Interestingly, even those who preferred watching movies confessed that reading books is definitely much better, but because of mostly time shortage, they went for the movies. Some few students found reading difficult, mainly because they were slow readers. This survey, the purpose of the survey was to spread awareness about the advantages of reading and the role they play in promoting students' critical literacy. So we try to promote reading habits. Knowledge and wisdom are the biggest assets an individual can have. Books play an important role in inculcating this knowledge. They also improve language and communication skills. Though book reading habit is prevalent among teenagers, it is not as popular among them as movies. More interest should be inculcated among students toward book reading. Book reading habits may be inculcated in school by introducing library hours separately, by conducting book reading workshops and interesting reading clubs and contests. That's all. Thank you very much for listening and your attention.